My name is Loretta Williams, and I'm 70 years old. For 52 years, I lived on a piece of land that my grandfather bought with his own hands in 1920. Land that was soaked with my family's sweat, tears, and blood. Land that meant everything to me. And on a cold October morning, I walked away from that land while my own family laughed at me like I was a fool. But let me tell you about the day I came back. The day I returned with papers in my hand and watched every single one of them realize they had made the biggest mistake of their lives. If this story is already pulling you in, please hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the notification bell. We share powerful stories like this every week, and you don't want to miss what happens next. Also, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from: USA, UK, Canada, AUSTRLLA, Jamaica, South Africa. We love our global family and want to know you're with us. Now, let me take you to that moment. That powerful, devastating, beautiful moment when justice came knocking. I walked up the long dirt road to the family house, the house my grandfather built with his own hands in 1925. It was a beautiful Saturday morning, and I could see them all gathered on the front porch for what they called a family meeting. My nephew Jerome was there with his wife, my niece Patricia and her husband, my other nephew Marcus, even my younger sister Denise, who should have known better. They were dividing up my land, the land I had walked away from 6 months ago while they laughed and called me a crazy old woman. I was wearing my best church dress, royal purple with gold buttons, and my mother's pearl necklace. In my hands, I carried a leather folder, just a simple brown folder, but inside that folder were papers that would change everything. They didn't see me at first. They were too busy arguing about who would get which piece of property. "I think I should get the south 40 acres, Jerome was saying. "That's where the creek runs, and it's worth the most." "No way," Patricia snapped. "Mama said I could have that part. You can have the north section." I cleared my throat loudly. They all turned to look at me, and when they saw me standing there, holding that folder, you should have seen their faces. Jerome laughed first. Well, look who came crawling back. What's wrong, Auntie? You run out of money already." The others laughed too, all of them, my own family laughing at me like I was nothing. "I didn't come back to beg," I said calmly. "I came back to show you something." "Show us what?" Denise said, rolling her eyes. "More crazy talk about how this land is yours. We've been over this, Loretta. Mama left the land to all of us equally. You don't get to keep it all just because you lived here." "Is that what you think?" I asked. I walked slowly up the porch steps. They watched me like I was a crazy person who might do anything. I opened the folder and pulled out the papers. Official papers with legal stamps and signatures. "These," I said, holding them up, "are the real ownership papers for this land. The ones Grandpa filed with the county in 1920. The ones that show this land belongs to the Williams Family Trust, a trust that can only be inherited by direct descendants of Isaiah Williams who meet certain conditions." Jerome grabbed the papers from my hand and started reading. His face went from amused to confused to horrified. This can't be right," he stammered. "Oh, it's right," I said. "Keep reading. Read the part about who inherits the land." Patricia snatched the papers from Jerome. As she read, all the color drained from her face. "According to these papers," she read slowly, "the land can only be inherited by descendants who have lived on and maintained the property for at least 20 consecutive years. If no one meets that requirement, the land reverts to..." She couldn't finish. "To me," I finished for her. "To the last person who lived on and maintained it, which is me. I lived in that house for 52 years. I took care of it. I paid the taxes. I kept it running. And now, according to Grandpa's original trust documents, this land is legally and completely mine." The silence that followed was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Then they all started talking at once, shouting, accusing, crying. And that's when I saw it. That's when they truly cried blood. Not literal blood, but tears so full of rage and regret and loss that they might as well have been bleeding. Because they finally understood. I hadn't walked away as a defeated old woman 6 months ago. I had walked away to prepare, to research, to find the proof I needed. And now I was back, and they had lost everything. But to understand how sweet this moment truly was, you need to hear the whole story. You need to know what they did to me, what they took from me, and how I fought back. Let me take you back to the beginning, back to when this all started. I was born in 1954 in the same house where I just confronted my family. My grandfather, Isaiah Williams, was one of the few black men in Mississippi who owned land in the early 1900s. He was smart, smarter than most people gave him credit for. He worked as a sharecropper for years, saving every penny, until he had enough money to buy 40 acres of good farmland. This was during Jim Crow, when black folks weren't supposed to own anything, let alone land. But Grandpa was careful. He made sure every paper was filed correctly, every signature was legal, every boundary was marked. He built a house on that land, a good, strong house, and he raised his family there. My mother grew up in that house, so did her siblings, and when I was born, I grew up there too. Grandpa died when I was 10 years old, in 1964. Before he died, he gathered the whole family together and made us promise something. "This land stays in the Williams family," he said. "Always, no matter what happens, you keep this land. It's our legacy. It's our freedom." We all promised, every single one of us. After Grandpa died, my grandmother lived on the land for another 20 years. Then my mother took over. And when Mama got too old to manage it by herself, I moved in to help her. I never married, never had children. Some folks thought that was sad, but I didn't. I had the land, I had my family, I had my purpose. I took care of Mama until she died in 2010. She was 92 years old, and I was with her every single day for the last 15 years of her life. After she died, I just stayed. The land was my home. It was all I knew. I couldn't imagine living anywhere else. I kept the house clean and beautiful. I tended the garden. I paid the property taxes every year, and those taxes weren't cheap. Over the years, as the area developed, the land became more and more valuable. By 2020, those 40 acres were worth over $2 million. $2 million. My family noticed. Suddenly, nieces and nephews who hadn't visited in years started showing up. Cousins I barely knew started calling. Everyone wanted to reconnect with dear Auntie Loretta. At first, I was happy. I thought they actually cared about me. I thought they wanted to be part of my life. I was so naive. It started with little comments. "Auntie, this house is so big for just one person. Don't you get lonely? Loretta, you're getting older. Don't you think it's time to move into a retirement home where people can take care of you? This land is too much for you to manage alone. Why don't you let us help?" I always said no. This was my home. I wasn't leaving. Then the comments got nastier. "You're being selfish, keeping all this land to yourself. This land belongs to the whole family, not just you. You're just a caretaker. You don't actually own this place." That last comment came from my sister Denise. She was 10 years younger than me, and we'd never been close. She'd moved to Chicago in her 20s and barely came back to Mississippi except for holidays. But now, she was very interested in the family land. "Mama left this property to all of us," Denise said during one heated argument. "You don't have any special rights to it just because you stayed here." "Mama wanted me to take care of it," I said. "She told me that before she died." "That's not what her will says. Her will says the land goes to her children equally. That means me and you, which means I own half of this property and you can't stop me from selling my half." I looked at Mama's will, the will that Denise's lawyer had drawn up, and it did say that the property would be divided equally among her children. But something felt wrong about it. Mama had always said the land should stay in the family. She would never have wanted it sold. "I'm not selling," I told Denise, "and I'm not leaving." "Then I'll force a sale," she threatened. "I'll take you to court and force you to buy out my half or sell the whole thing. Either way, I'm getting my money." That's when things got really ugly. Denise hired a lawyer. She filed papers to force the sale of the property. She claimed I was preventing her from accessing her rightful inheritance. Jerome and Patricia, Mama's grandchildren, joined her lawsuit. They said they were entitled to part of the land too, since their mother, Mama's other daughter who had died years ago, would have inherited part of it. Even Marcus, who I'd always been close with, sided with them. "I'm sorry, Auntie," he said, "but I need the money. We all do. This land is worth millions, and you're sitting on it being stubborn." Stubborn, that's what they called me. Stubborn, not loyal, not devoted, not a faithful caretaker of our family legacy. Stubborn. The court case dragged on for months. My lawyer, a kind young woman named Sarah Chen, tried her best, but the law was clear. According to Mama's will, Denise did have a legal claim to half the property. "I'm sorry, Miss Loretta," Sarah said. "Unless you can buy out her half, you'll have to sell." Buy out her half? That would cost over $1 million. I had maybe 50,000 in savings. There was no way I could afford it. "There has to be another way," I said desperately. "There might be," Sarah said slowly. "If there are any earlier legal documents that show different ownership terms, something from your grandfather's time, maybe, that could override your mother's will. But finding something like that would require extensive research into old county records." "How much would that cost?" "Thousands of dollars, maybe tens of thousands, and there's no guarantee we'd find anything." I didn't have thousands of dollars to spend on a maybe. The court date was set for April 15th. The judge would decide whether to force the sale of the property. The night before the court date, my family came to the house, all of them. They wanted to talk sense into me one last time. "Just agree to sell, Loretta," Jerome said. "We'll all get our share, and you'll have enough money to live comfortably somewhere else." "This is my home," I said for the 100th time. "This was Grandpa's home," Patricia corrected. "Then it was Grandma's, then Mama's. Now it should be divided among all of us. You don't get to keep it all just because you were too pathetic to get married and move on with your life." Those words cut deep. Too pathetic. Like my whole life, my sacrifice, my devotion, my choice to care for my family was pathetic. "I'm not selling," I said quietly. Denise stood up, her face twisted with anger. "Then you're a fool. Tomorrow, the judge is going to order this property sold. And when it is, you'll get your share, but you'll lose your home. And it will be your own fault for being so selfish." They all left, slamming doors behind them. I sat alone in that big house, the house Grandpa built with his own hands, and I cried. I cried for hours, wondering if I really was being selfish, wondering if I should just give up and let them have what they wanted. But then I thought about Grandpa, about his promise. This land stays in the Williams family, always. And I thought about Mama, holding my hand on her deathbed, saying, "Take care of the land, Loretta. Don't let them take it." I couldn't give up, not without a fight. The next morning, I went to court. My family was there, dressed up, looking confident. They thought they'd already won. The judge reviewed the case. He listened to both sides, and then he spoke. "Based on the evidence presented, I'm ordering the property to be sold within 90 days. The proceeds will be divided according to the terms of Mrs. Williams's will." My family cheered, actually cheered, right there in the courtroom. I just sat there, numb with shock and grief. After the hearing, as I walked out of the courthouse, Jerome called after me. "Hey, Auntie, where you gonna live now? Maybe we can find you a nice nursing home." They all laughed, every single one of them, standing there in their expensive clothes, laughing at me like I was the biggest joke in the world. I turned around and looked at them, really looked at them. And I made a decision. "I'm walking away," I said clearly, "but I'm not giving up, not yet." Jerome laughed even harder. "What are you gonna do? You lost, old woman, accept it." I didn't say anything else. I just turned and walked away. Behind me, I heard Patricia say, "She's finally lost her mind, probably for the best." More laughter. I walked down the courthouse steps, got in my old car, and drove away from that building, away from my family, away from everything I'd known. But I wasn't defeated. I was planning. Because Sarah Chen had said something that stuck in my mind. If there are any earlier legal documents that show different ownership terms. I had 90 days before the forced sale. 90 days to find proof that the land was meant to be protected. That Grandpa had set up some kind of trust or legal arrangement that would override Mama's will. I went to the county records office the next day. I told the clerk, a kind older woman named Mrs. Henderson, what I was looking for. Property records from 1920, she said. Oh, honey, those are in the old archives. Nobody's looked at those in decades. They're not even digitized yet. Can I look at them? You can try, but it's going to take time. Those records are a mess, boxes and boxes of old papers, some of them damaged by water or age. I have 90 days, I said. I'll take whatever time I have. So that's what I did. For the next 3 months, I went to the county records office every single day. I searched through box after box of old documents, property deeds, transfer papers, legal filings from 100 years ago. It was exhausting, frustrating. Sometimes I wanted to give up. But I kept going, because I had promised Grandpa, I had promised Mama. And because I wanted to see the look on my family's faces when I proved them wrong. On day 87, just 3 days before the forced sale was scheduled, I found it. A brown folder, yellowed with age, filed incorrectly in a box labeled 1923. Inside was a legal document titled Williams Family Land Trust. I read it with shaking hands. It was exactly what I needed, exactly what I'd been searching for. Grandpa hadn't just bought that land. He'd put it in a trust, a legal arrangement that protected it and specified exactly who could inherit it. The terms were clear. Only direct descendants who had lived on and maintained the property for at least 20 consecutive years could inherit. Nobody else in my family had lived there for 20 years. Not Denise, not Jerome, not Patricia, not Marcus. Just me. The trust document overrode any later wills, because it was the original ownership arrangement filed when Grandpa bought the land. I made copies. I had the document certified. I called Sarah Chen. Miss Loretta, she said, her voice filled with excitement after reading the trust document, this changes everything. This completely invalidates the forced sale. The land is yours, legally and entirely yours. I didn't cry. I didn't celebrate. I just sat there feeling powerful. For the first time in months, I felt powerful. I want to file these papers, I said, but I don't want to file them before the forced sale. I want my family to think they've won. I want them to show up at that property, ready to divide it up. And then I want to walk in and show them exactly what they lost. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then she laughed. Miss Loretta, you are something else, okay? We'll do it your way. So that's what we did. We let the forced sale proceed. We let my family think they'd won. We let them schedule their family meeting to divide up the property. And then, on that beautiful Saturday morning, I walked back onto my land, wearing my best dress and carrying those papers. The papers that proved I owned everything. The papers that meant they got nothing. The papers that turned their laughter into tears of blood. And now, standing on that porch, watching them realize what they'd lost, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. But the war wasn't over yet, not even close. Because when people realize they've lost millions of dollars, they don't just cry and walk away. They fight back, dirty. And my family was about to show me just how dirty they could fight. If you're loving Loretta's story of justice and revenge, smash that like button and subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our stories. Things are about to get intense. Drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? And do you think Loretta's family deserved what they got? We love hearing from our viewers around the world. The shouting on that porch was so loud, I thought the neighbors 3 miles away could hear it. This is fraud, Jerome screamed, throwing the papers at my feet. These documents are fake, you made them up. Yeah, Patricia joined in. There's no way Grandpa would have done something like this without telling the whole family. I stayed calm. I'd been preparing for this moment for 3 months. I knew exactly what to say. The documents are certified by the county records office, I said quietly. They're 100% real, and they're legally binding. This land is mine, all of it. You have 30 days to remove anything you've stored here, and then you're no longer welcome on my property. Denise stepped forward, her face twisted with rage. You think you're so smart, don't you? You think you've won. I know I've won, I replied. We'll fight this in court, she threatened. We'll prove those documents are invalid, You'll lose, I interrupted. Sarah Chen already filed the papers with the court this morning. The judge who ordered the forced sale has already reviewed them and reversed his decision. The property is legally mine. It's over. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Marcus, who'd been quiet until now, spoke up. His voice was different, softer, more dangerous. Auntie Loretta, he said slowly, you should be very careful, very, very careful. Is that a threat? I asked. It's advice. You're an old woman living alone on a valuable piece of property. Accidents happen, especially to old women who don't have anyone to protect them. My blood ran cold, but I didn't let them see my fear. If anything happens to me, I said clearly, Sarah Chen has instructions to immediately contact the police and the FBI. I've documented every threat, every conversation, every attempt to steal my land. So if you're thinking about doing something stupid, remember that. Marcus's face hardened, but he didn't say anything else. I turned to leave, but Denise grabbed my arm, hard enough to hurt. You've ruined this family, she hissed. We needed that money. Jerome's business is failing. Patricia's about to lose her house. I have medical bills I can't pay. And you're sitting on $2 million of land being selfish. I pulled my arm away from her grip. Your problems are not my responsibility. You should have thought about that before you laughed at me and tried to steal my home. I walked off that porch, got in my car, and drove away. In my rearview mirror, I could see them standing there, watching me leave, planning, plotting. I knew this wasn't over. For the next week, things were quiet, too quiet. I moved back into the house, but I was careful. I installed new locks on all the doors. I set up security cameras around the property. I even bought a dog, a big German shepherd named Duke who barked at anyone who came near. Sarah Chen called me every day to check on me. How are you holding up? She asked. I'm fine, but Sarah, I'm worried. My family isn't the type to just give up. I know. That's why I want you to be extra careful. Don't let anyone onto the property. Don't eat or drink anything they give you. Don't meet with them alone. And if anything at all, feels wrong, call the police immediately. Her warnings made me nervous, but I tried to stay calm. I had Duke. I had cameras. I had my phone. I'd be okay. Then, 10 days after I reclaimed my property, something happened that changed everything. I woke up one morning to find Duke lying on the back porch, not moving. Duke, I ran to him, my heart pounding. Duke, baby, wake up. He was breathing, but barely. His tongue was hanging out, and he was making horrible wheezing sounds. I called the emergency vet, and they told me to bring him in immediately. At the vet's office, they ran tests. The results came back an hour later. Miss Williams, the vet said gently, your dog has been poisoned. Someone gave him rat poison, probably mixed in with food. We can treat him, but whoever did this was trying to kill him. I felt sick. Will he survive? I think so, but Miss Williams, you need to call the police. Someone came onto your property and poisoned your dog. That's a crime, and it might be a warning. I called the police. They came out to the house, took a report, looked at my security cameras. But here's the thing, the cameras showed nothing. Whoever poisoned Duke knew where the cameras were and avoided them. They'd been careful, professional even. We'll investigate, the officer said. But without evidence of who did it, there's not much we can do. After the police left, I sat in my living room feeling scared for the first time since this whole thing started. Someone had come onto my property. Someone had tried to kill my dog. Someone was sending me a message, you're not safe. I called Sarah Chen. That's it, she said firmly. You're not staying there alone anymore. I'm hearing private security for you, 24 hours a day, I don't care what it costs. I can't afford. Yes, you can. You own $2 million of property. We'll work out payment. But right now, your safety is more important than money. That night, a security guard named James arrived. He was a former police officer, 6'4", with arms like tree trunks. Miss Williams, he said, I'm going to be staying in my car outside your house tonight. I have cameras, motion sensors, and a direct line to the police. Nobody's getting near this property without me knowing about it. I slept a little better that night, knowing James was outside. But the next morning, I got a phone call that made my blood run cold. Miss Williams, this is Officer Davis from the County Sheriff's Department. We received a complaint about you from your neighbors. A complaint about what? They're saying you've been threatening them, making hostile comments, creating a dangerous environment in the neighborhood. That's a lie. I haven't threatened anyone. That's not what they're saying. We have 4 separate complaints filed in the past week. I need you to come down to the station and answer some questions. I couldn't believe it. My family was trying to make me look like the bad guy. I called Sarah immediately. She met me at the police station. The complaints were ridiculous. Jerome claimed I'd threatened to burn down his business. Patricia said I'd sent her threatening text messages. Marcus said I'd pointed a gun at him when he drove past my property. Denise said I'd called her and threatened to make her pay for trying to sell the land. All lies, every single one. Do you have any proof of these threats? Sarah asked the officer. Well, no, it's their word against hers. Exactly. It's 4 people who just lost a $2 million property lying about the woman who legally owns it. This is harassment. And if they file one more false report, I'll be filing charges against them for making false police reports. The officer looked uncomfortable, but agreed to drop the complaints for now. But the damage was done. The rumors started spreading. Neighbors who'd always been friendly suddenly looked at me with suspicion. People whispered when I went to the grocery store. I heard she threatened her own family. I heard she's mentally unstable. I heard she has guns and is dangerous. It hurt. It hurt so much to have people believe lies about me, but I understood what my family was doing. They couldn't beat me legally, so they were trying to destroy my reputation, make me look crazy, make me look dangerous, maybe even get me arrested. Then came the lawsuit. Not from my family directly. That would have been too obvious. Instead, a man named Robert Crawford filed a lawsuit against me claiming I owed him $50,000 for property maintenance services he'd provided over the past 5 years. I'd never even heard of Robert Crawford. Sarah investigated. It turned out Robert Crawford was Jerome's business partner. The property maintenance services were completely made up, but fighting the lawsuit would cost money I was spending on security and legal fees. They're bleeding you dry, Sarah said. This is a strategic attack. They know you can't afford to defend yourself forever. They're hoping you'll give up and offer them a settlement just to make it all stop. I'm not giving up, I said firmly. I didn't fight this hard to lose now. But I was getting tired, scared, worried about money, worried about my safety. And my family knew it. 2 weeks later, I was at the grocery store when Patricia approached me. She looked different, sad, sorry, almost apologetic. Auntie Loretta, she said softly, can we talk, please? I was suspicious, but I agreed. We sat in my car in the parking lot. I'm so sorry, Patricia said, tears in her eyes. I'm sorry for everything, for the lawsuit, for trying to take your land, for laughing at you. I was greedy and stupid, and I hurt someone I should have respected. I wanted to believe her. I wanted so badly to believe that someone in my family still had a conscience. Why are you telling me this now? I asked carefully. Because I see what's happening. Jerome and Marcus are planning something bad, really bad, and I don't want any part of it anymore. My heart started racing. What are they planning? Patricia looked around nervously. They hired someone, a man who does things, illegal things. They're planning to. Suddenly, Jerome appeared out of nowhere, walking quickly toward my car. Patricia's face went white. I have to go, Please, Auntie, be careful. Don't trust anyone, not even. Jerome reached the car and yanked Patricia's door open. What are you doing? He demanded. Nothing, I was just. Get out now. Patricia got out of the car, looking back at me with terrified eyes. Jerome grabbed her arm and pulled her away. I sat there shaking. What had Patricia been about to tell me? What were they planning? I called James, my security guard, and told him what happened. We need to increase security, he said. I'm going to bring in another guard. We'll do rotating shifts. And Miss Williams, I think you should consider getting a gun. I don't like guns. I understand, but we're not dealing with normal family drama anymore. These people are dangerous. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound made me jump. Every shadow looked like a person. Around 2 a.m., Duke started barking frantically. James radioed me immediately. Miss Williams, stay inside. Someone's trying to get onto the property. I'm calling the police. I grabbed my phone and crouched down behind my bed, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would explode. I heard voices outside, shouting, then sirens. Finally, James knocked on my door. It's okay, Miss Williams. You can come out. The police had caught someone trying to break into my shed, a man I didn't recognize. When they searched him, they found tools that looked like they were meant for starting a fire. He was going to burn down your shed, James said. Maybe even your house. The man refused to say who hired him, but we all knew. The police arrested him for attempted arson and trespassing. But as they took him away, he looked at me and smiled. A cold, creepy smile that said, "This isn't over." The next morning, I got another call, this one from the hospital. Miss Williams, this is Dr. Patel from County General. Your sister Denise has been admitted. She's claiming you attacked her. What? I haven't seen Denise in weeks. She says you came to her house last night and assaulted her. She has injuries consistent with her story, bruises, a cut on her face. This is insane. I was home all night with a security guard watching my house. He can verify I never left. James immediately provided an alibi, and the hospital dropped the complaint. But the damage was done. Now there were rumors that I was violent. I was exhausted, terrified, running out of money and hope. That evening, Sarah came to my house for an emergency meeting. Loretta, I need you to listen to me carefully. Your family is escalating. The poisoning, the false reports, the attempted arson, the fake assault, they're trying to force you into a position where you have to sell the land just to escape the harassment. I won't sell. I know you won't, but I need you to understand something. This might get worse before it gets better, much worse. Are you prepared for that? I looked around the house my grandfather built, the house where generations of my family had lived, the house I'd promised to protect. I'm prepared, I said, whatever it takes. Sarah nodded. Okay, then we need to go on the offensive. We need to stop reacting and start attacking, and I know exactly how to do it. She pulled out a folder, much like the one I'd carried to confront my family. I've been doing some investigating of my own, she said, and I found something very interesting about Jerome's business, about Marcus's finances, about Denise's insurance claims. Things that, if exposed, would destroy them the same way they're trying to destroy you. I looked at the folder, thinking about what Sarah was proposing. We could fight dirty too. We could ruin them. But was that who I wanted to be? Before I could answer, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Hello. Heavy breathing, then a distorted voice, probably using a voice changer. You should have taken the money and left, old woman. Now you're going to pay. We're coming for you. Tonight. And this time your security guard won't be enough to save you. The line went dead. I looked at Sarah and James, my hands shaking. They're coming tonight, I whispered. They're going to kill me. This is getting intense. If you're on the edge of your seat, hit that like button and subscribe right now. We need to know you're with us. Turn on the notification bell and drop a comment. Where are you watching from? And what do you think Loretta should do? Fight dirty like her family or keep taking the high road? We're reading every comment. Let's go. James immediately went into action mode. He called for backup, 2 more security guards who arrived within 30 minutes. He called the police and reported the threat. He made sure every door and window was locked, every camera was working, every light around the property was on. "Miss Williams," he said firmly, "I need you to go upstairs to your bedroom, lock the door, and stay away from the windows. Keep your phone with you. If anything happens, if you hear anything at all, you call 911 immediately. Understand?" I nodded, too scared to speak. "Sarah stayed with me. She wasn't leaving me alone," she said. "Not tonight." We sat upstairs in my bedroom, the same bedroom where I'd slept for 52 years. Sarah had her laptop open, working on something. I just sat there, watching the clock, waiting. 9 p.m., nothing. 10 p.m., still quiet. 11 p.m. I started to wonder if the call had been just another scare tactic. Then, at 11:47 p.m., all the lights went out. The whole house went dark. The security cameras went dead. Even the streetlight outside went out. "They cut the power," James's voice crackled over the radio. "Stay calm. We have backup generators, but it'll take a minute too." Crash, the sound of breaking glass from downstairs. "They're inside," James shouted. "Miss Williams, stay in your room, lock the door now." Sarah and I scrambled to lock the bedroom door. We could hear shouting downstairs. Footsteps, things breaking. Sarah called 911. "We have intruders. Armed security is on site. Send police immediately." The 911 operator said police were 7 minutes away. 7 minutes? That's a long time when people are trying to hurt you. We heard footsteps on the stairs. Heavy boots, multiple people. "She's up here," a man's voice shouted. "Find her." They tried the bedroom door. The handle rattled violently. "Open this door, old woman," another voice. This one I recognized, it was Marcus. "The police are coming," Sarah shouted. "You need to leave now or you'll all go to jail." "We'll be gone before they get here," Marcus laughed. "And you'll both be dead." Something slammed into the door. They were trying to break it down. I looked at Sarah, terrified. "What do we do?" She was already moving, pulling the heavy dresser toward the door to block it. "Help me." We pushed the dresser against the door just as they hit it again. The wood cracked but held. "There's a back staircase," I whispered. "From my bathroom. It goes down to the kitchen. Grandpa built it as a fire escape." "Show me." We ran to the bathroom. I opened what looked like a linen closet, but behind it was a narrow staircase, steep and dark, but it led down. Behind us, the bedroom door splintered. They were almost through. "Gio," Sarah pushed me toward the stairs. I went down as fast as I could, my old knees protesting every step. Sarah followed, pulling the hidden door closed behind us. We reached the kitchen just as we heard the bedroom door finally break. Marcus and whoever was with him were in my room. But we were already out the back door, running toward James's car. James saw us and started the engine. "Get in." We dove into the back seat. James floored it, racing down the long driveway. Behind us, 3 men ran out of the house. I saw Marcus, Jerome, and a third man I didn't recognize, probably the person they'd hired. They jumped into a truck and came after us. "Hold on," James shouted, driving like a man possessed down the dark country roads. Sarah was on the phone with 911, giving them our location. "They're chasing us. They're trying to run us off the road." The truck pulled up beside us, trying to force us into a ditch. James swerved, barely keeping control. Then suddenly, lights appeared ahead. Red and blue flashing lights. Police cars, lots of them. The truck behind us slammed on its brakes and tried to turn around, but more police cars appeared, blocking the road. James stopped the car. We were safe. Officers surrounded the truck. I watched through the back window as they pulled Marcus, Jerome, and the hired man out at gunpoint. All 3 of them were put in handcuffs. All 3 of them were going to jail. We spent the rest of the night at the police station, giving statements. The police took my story seriously this time: attempted murder, breaking and entering, assault. These weren't minor charges. Detective Rodriguez, who was leading the investigation, told us something shocking. Miss Williams, we've been investigating your family for the past week. After the attempted arson, we started looking into them more closely, and what we found was extensive. What do you mean? I asked. Your nephew Jerome has been running a fraudulent contracting business for years. He takes people's money for home repairs and then never does the work. We have at least 30 complaints filed against him. And Marcus? Sarah asked. Marcus has been involved in insurance fraud. He's made multiple false claims over the past 5 years. The insurance companies have been building a case against him. What about my sister Denise? I asked quietly. Detective Rodriguez's expression became grim. Your sister has been claiming disability benefits while working under the table at 3 different jobs. That's federal fraud. She's been stealing from the government for over a decade. I couldn't believe it. My whole family, the people who had called me selfish, who had said I was keeping money from them, were all criminals. There's more, the detective said. The man they hired to help them tonight. His name is Victor Reeves. He's a known criminal with a record for arson, assault, and attempted murder. Your nephews paid him $10,000 to take care of you. We have text messages proving it. Sarah grabbed my hand. Loretta, they really were trying to kill you. They're all going to prison, Detective Rodriguez said. Marcus and Jerome will probably get 10 to 15 years for attempted murder and conspiracy. Victor Reeves will get even more. And your sister Denise will face federal charges for the disability fraud. I should have felt happy, victorious. They were getting what they deserved. But all I felt was sad. These were my family, my blood, and they had hated me so much they'd tried to kill me for money. The next morning, I went back to my house with Sarah and a police escort. The place was a mess, broken doors, shattered windows, furniture overturned. The damage from the break-in was extensive. But it was still my house, still my land, still my home. We'll fix it, Sarah said. We'll make it better than before. As we walked through the destroyed rooms, my phone rang. It was Patricia. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Auntie Loretta. Her voice was shaking, crying. I just heard what happened. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You tried to warn me, I said. At the grocery store, you tried to tell me they were planning something. I should have done more. I should have gone to the police. I was just so scared of Jerome, and I thought maybe he was just trying to scare you, not actually hurt you. Patricia, did you know they were planning to kill me? There was a long silence. Then, no, I swear I didn't know that. I thought they were going to break in and trash the house, try to scare you into selling. When I heard they brought Victor Reeves, Auntie, I'm sick about this. My own family tried to murder you. Are you involved in any of their crimes? The fraud, the fake businesses? No, I swear, I wanted money. I wanted my share of the land, but I never wanted anyone to get hurt, and I definitely never wanted you dead. I believed her. Patricia had always been weak, easily influenced, but she wasn't evil. Patricia, I need you to testify against them. Tell the police everything you know about Jerome and Marcus's plans. Help put them away. I will, I promise. And Auntie, I know you'll never forgive me for what I did, for laughing at you, for supporting them, but I need you to know I'm ashamed, deeply ashamed. Good, I said. You should be. I hung up. Sarah looked at me with respect. You're handling this better than most people would. I don't have a choice. I'm 70 years old. I don't have time to fall apart. I have a house to repair and a life to rebuild. Over the next few days, more details came out. The police investigation revealed that Jerome had been planning to kill me for months. He'd hired Victor Reeves back in August, right after I'd first walked away from the family meeting. The plan had always been to take the land by force if they couldn't get it legally. The attempted arson, the poisoned dog, the death threats. It had all been part of a systematic campaign to terrorize me into giving up or, if that didn't work, to kill me and make it look like an accident. The news media picked up the story. Elderly woman fights off family's murder plot, the headlines read. Reporters came to interview me. I became something of a local celebrity. But I didn't want fame. I just wanted peace. Sarah continued her investigation into my family's finances. What she found was even more disturbing than the criminal charges. "Loretta," she said one afternoon, showing me her laptop. "Remember how Jerome and Marcus said they needed money because they had financial problems?" "Yes." "That was a lie. Jerome's business has been profitable for years. He's been hiding money in offshore accounts, over $500,000. And Marcus has been living off insurance fraud money while claiming to be broke. They didn't need your land because they were desperate. They wanted it because they were greedy." I felt rage boiling up inside me. They tried to kill me for money they didn't even need. "Exactly, and there's more. Your sister Denise, she's been collecting disability for a back injury for 12 years. But we found videos of her working construction jobs, moving heavy equipment, doing manual labor. She's been defrauding the government while claiming she couldn't work." "How much has she stolen?" "Over $200,000 in fraudulent disability payments." I thought about Denise crying about her medical bills, claiming she needed money from the land sale to survive. All lies. "Sarah, I want to make sure they pay back every penny they stole. To the government, to the insurance companies, to everyone they defrauded." "They will. The federal prosecutors are being very aggressive with these cases. Your family is going to lose everything: their freedom, their money, their reputations. Everything." That should have made me happy, but it just made me tired. 3 weeks later, I attended the arraignment hearing for Marcus, Jerome, and Victor Reeves. They were all charged with attempted murder, conspiracy, breaking and entering, and assault. When they brought Marcus and Jerome into the courtroom in their orange jumpsuits and chains, they looked so different from the confident, laughing men who'd stood on my porch 6 months ago. They looked broken, defeated, scared. The prosecutor asked for no bail, arguing they were flight risks and dangers to the community. The judge agreed. As they were led away, Marcus looked at me, not with hatred this time, with something else. Regret. Too late, I thought, way too late. Denise's federal trial was scheduled for 2 months later. She tried to plead guilty and get a reduced sentence, but the prosecutors weren't interested. She was going to prison for a long time. Patricia did testify against her brothers. She told the police everything, every meeting, every plan, every conversation she'd overheard. Her testimony was devastating. In exchange, the prosecutor agreed not to charge her with conspiracy. She wouldn't go to prison, but she would carry the shame of what her family had done for the rest of her life. 1 month after the break-in, I was back in my repaired house. The new windows were installed. The doors were fixed. The security system was upgraded. I was sitting on my front porch, the same porch where my family had laughed at me, when a car pulled up. For a moment, my heart raced with fear, but then I saw who it was. Patricia. She got out of the car slowly, nervously. "Auntie Loretta, can I talk to you, please?" I should have said no, should have told her to leave and never come back. But I was tired of hate, tired of fighting, tired of being angry. "Come sit," I said, gesturing to the chair next to me. Patricia climbed the steps and sat down. For a long moment, we just sat there in silence. "I brought you something," she finally said, handing me an envelope. Inside was a check, made out to me, for $50,000. "What's this?" I asked. "It's my share, the money I would have gotten if we'd sold the land. I don't want it anymore. I want you to have it, for the repairs, for the legal fees, for everything." I looked at the check. $50,000. It would help. God knows I'd spent almost everything I had on lawyers and security. "Patricia, why are you doing this?" She started crying. "Because I'm ashamed. Because I was part of something terrible. Because I stood by and watched my brothers plan to hurt you and I didn't do enough to stop it. This money won't fix what we did, but maybe it's a start." I thought about it for a long moment. Then I tore the check in half. Patricia gasped. "Auntie." "I don't want your money," I said, "but I'll tell you what I do want." "Anything." I want you to live a good life, an honest life. I want you to be better than your brothers and your mother. I want you to teach your children to respect family, to value integrity over money, to understand that some things are more important than wealth. I will, I promise. And Patricia, I want you to visit me sometimes, not because you feel guilty, not because you owe me, but because family should mean more than money and land and greed. She hugged me then, crying into my shoulder like a child. Thank you, Auntie. Thank you for being better than we deserved. After she left, I sat on that porch watching the sun set over my land, my grandfather's land, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Maybe not all of my family was lost. Maybe Patricia could change. Maybe her children would grow up understanding what this land really meant. But there was still one piece of unfinished business, one final thing I needed to do. Because while Marcus and Jerome were in jail, while Denise was facing federal charges, there was one person who'd escaped justice. The person who'd started this whole mess. The person who'd written Mama's will to divide the property equally, even though Mama had always said the land should stay in the family. Denise's lawyer, a man named Edward Morrison. Sarah had been investigating him too, and what she'd found was shocking. Loretta, she said when she came to my house the next day, Edward Morrison has been running this same scam for 20 years. He convinces elderly clients to write wills that divide family property. Then he helps the greedy family members force sales. When the property sells, he gets a percentage of the proceeds. He's made millions doing this to families like yours. That's legal, I asked, horrified. The way he structures it, barely. He stays just on the right side of the law, but we found something that will bring him down. And Loretta, you're going to be the one to do it. She handed me another folder. Inside were documents showing that Edward Morrison had forged signatures on several wills, including, possibly, my mother's. Are you saying Mama didn't write that will? I asked, my voice shaking. I'm saying the signature on that will doesn't match your mother's signature on any other legal document. We had a handwriting expert analyze it. There's a 90% chance it was forged. My hands started shaking. He faked Mama's will. He made it look like she wanted the land divided when she didn't. That's what we believe. And if we can prove it, if we can show that Edward Morrison has been forging wills to facilitate property sales he profits from, he'll go to prison. And so will every crooked family member he's worked with over the years. How do we prove it? Sarah smiled. We set a trap and you're the bait. Oh my God, this story just took another crazy turn. If you're still with us, we need you to smash that like button and subscribe right now. Hit that notification bell, Loretta's final move that will bring down everyone. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from? USA, Canada, UK, Ghana, Australia? Let us know and tell us. Do you think Edward Morrison deserves what's coming? Sarah explained the plan to me over coffee in my newly repaired kitchen. Edward Morrison has been getting away with this for 20 years because his victims never had proof. The families were too busy fighting each other to investigate him. But you're different, Loretta. You fought back. You found the truth. And now we're going to use that to catch him. How? I asked. We're going to make him think he has another victim. Someone just like you, an elderly woman with valuable property and greedy family members who want to force a sale. Who? Sarah smiled. Someone I trust completely, my mother. Over the next week, Sarah set up the trap carefully. Her mother, Susan Chen, was 72 years old and owned a beautiful piece of property in the next county, 30 acres with a house, worth about $1.5 million. Sarah had her mother contact Edward Morrison, saying she'd heard he was an excellent estate lawyer who could help her write a will. Morrison took the bait immediately. They set up a meeting at his office. But what Morrison didn't know was that Susan Chen was wearing a hidden camera and a wire. Everything he said would be recorded. I watched from Sarah's office on a video feed as Susan walked into Morrison's office. Mrs. Chen, Morrison said with a warm smile, please sit down. Tell me how I can help you today. Well, Mr. Morrison, Susan said nervously, She was a good actress. I'm getting older, and I want to make sure my property goes to my children when I die, but I'm worried they'll fight over it. That's a very common concern, Morrison said smoothly. Tell me about your children and the property. Susan described two fictional children, both greedy, both already asking about their inheritance. She made it sound like the perfect setup for Morrison's scam. Morrison leaned forward, his eyes lighting up with interest. Mrs. Chen, I think I can help you, but I need to be honest with you about something. Your children are going to fight over this property no matter how carefully you write your will. That's just human nature when there's money involved. What should I do? Well, there's a way to structure your will that can. Encourage your children to cooperate. We make it so that the property has to be sold and divided equally. That way, nobody can hold on to it and keep others from getting their share. But I don't want the property sold, Susan protested. I want it to stay in the family. Morrison's smile became more predatory. I understand, but Mrs. Chen, sometimes what's best for the family isn't what we originally wanted. Sometimes we have to be practical. And here's the thing, when the property is sold, everyone benefits, including you. How do I benefit? I'll be dead. Not necessarily. Sometimes these forced sales happen while the property owner is still alive. And when they do, the property owner can receive a portion of the proceeds, enough to live very comfortably in a nice retirement home. I felt sick watching this. He was telling her to set herself up to be forced out of her own home. I don't know, Susan said doubtfully. Mrs. Chen, let me be frank with you. I've handled hundreds of estates like yours, and I've seen what happens when elderly property owners try to hold onto valuable land while their children are fighting over it. It gets ugly. People get hurt, sometimes physically. Are you saying my children would hurt me? I'm saying that when there's money involved, people do things you wouldn't expect. It's better to plan ahead. Set up a will that forces a sale. And if you'd like, I can even help facilitate that sale when the time comes. I have connections with developers who would pay top dollar for your property. And you would get a commission, Sarah's mother asked innocently. Morrison's smile slipped for just a second. There would be a finder's fee, yes, standard practice in real estate transactions, usually about 10%. 10% of $1.5 million, $150,000 for Morrison. Mr. Morrison, Susan said carefully, are you suggesting that I write a will that forces my property to be sold so that you can make money from the sale? Morrison's face hardened. Of course not. I'm suggesting a legal arrangement that protects your children's interests and ensures everyone is treated fairly. But what about my wishes? What if I don't want the property sold? Mrs. Chen, with all due respect, what you want doesn't matter if you're not here to enforce it. Dead people don't have wishes. They have wills, and wills can be interpreted in many different ways. There it was, the admission we needed. Mr. Morrison, Susan said, standing up, I think I need to talk to my children before I make any decisions. Of course, but Mrs. Chen, one more thing. Sometimes it's better if certain conversations about estate planning remain confidential, between you and me. If your children know too much about the details, they might try to influence your decisions in ways that aren't optimal. Are you telling me to lie to my children? I'm telling you to protect your interests, and mine, because if we work together, Mrs. Chen, we can both benefit greatly from this arrangement. Susan left the office. The moment she was outside, she called Sarah. I got it all, she said, every word. We had him. The next day, Sarah and I went to the district attorney's office with the recording and all of our evidence about Edward Morrison's 20-year pattern of fraudulent estate planning. The DA, a sharp woman named Rebecca Walsh, listened to the recording with growing anger. This man is a predator, she said, preying on elderly property owners and their greedy families. How many victims do you think there are? At least 40 that we know of, Sarah said. Maybe more. And you believe he forged your mother's will? Rebecca asked me. I know he did. My mother would never have wanted the land divided. She told me 1,000 times that it should stay in the family. But Morrison convinced my sister Denise to hire him, and suddenly there's a will that forces a sale. A will with a signature that doesn't match my mother's handwriting. Rebecca nodded. We'll get a warrant for Morrison's records. If he's forged one will, he's probably forged others. And Mrs. Williams, I want to thank you. Without your determination to fight for your property, we never would have caught this guy. The investigation moved quickly. Within a week, the DA's office had warrants for all of Morrison's client files going back 20 years. What they found was shocking. Edward Morrison had forged at least 15 wills. He'd manipulated dozens more. He'd made over $3 million in finder's fees from forced property sales, and he'd destroyed countless families in the process. The day the police arrested Morrison, I was there. Sarah had arranged for me to be present. They came to his office in the morning. Morrison was sitting at his desk, probably planning his next victim, when 6 officers walked in. Edward Morrison, you're under arrest for fraud, forgery, conspiracy, and elder abuse. Morrison's face went white. This is a mistake. I'm a lawyer, you can't. We have evidence, the lead officer said. Lots of it, including a recording of you trying to manipulate an elderly woman into writing a will that would benefit you financially. They put handcuffs on him, and as they led him past the window where I was watching, Morrison saw me. His face went from white to red with rage. You, he screamed. You did this, you bitter old woman. You cost me everything. I just smiled and waved. Morrison's arrest made national news. Corrupt attorney preyed on elderly property owners for 20 years, the headlines read. Families who'd been torn apart by forced property sales started coming forward. People who'd thought their parents or grandparents had willingly divided family land suddenly realized they'd been manipulated. One of those families was mine. Patricia called me, crying. Auntie, I just heard about Morrison. Did he forge Grandma's will? I believe so, and the handwriting experts agree. So Grandma never wanted the land divided. She wanted you to have it. That's what Grandpa's trust documents say, and that's what Mama told me before she died. Patricia was silent for a long moment. We destroyed our family over a lie. Yes, you did. Jerome and Marcus are going to prison. Mama is going to federal prison. And it was all for nothing. The land was never meant to be divided in the first place. Patricia, I need you to understand something. Even if Morrison did forge that will, your brothers still chose to try to kill me. Your mother still chose to defraud the government. Those were their decisions. Morrison didn't force them to become criminals. I know, I wish things had been different. So do I. Edward Morrison's trial was scheduled for 6 months later, but before it could happen, prosecutors offered him a deal. If you plead guilty and agree to testify about everyone you've helped defraud property owners over the years, we'll reduce your sentence from 50 years to 20 years. Morrison took the deal, which meant he would spend the rest of his life in prison. He was 68 years old. He'd never be free again. As part of his plea agreement, Morrison had to provide a list of every will he'd forged or manipulated. My mother's will was on that list. The court officially invalidated Mama's will, which meant the property had always been mine, according to Grandpa's original trust documents. I'd been right all along. Marcus and Jerome's trial happened 3 months later. With Patricia's testimony, Morrison's evidence, and the overwhelming proof of their attempted murder plot, they didn't stand a chance. The jury deliberated for only 2 hours before returning a verdict, guilty on all counts. Marcus got 25 years. Jerome got 23 years. Victor Reeves, the man they'd hired to kill me, got 40 years. None of them would ever taste freedom again. Denise's federal trial resulted in a 15-year sentence for disability fraud and conspiracy. My entire family, except Patricia, was in prison. On the day of the final sentencing, I was allowed to give a victim impact statement. I stood in that courtroom, facing the people who'd once laughed at me when I walked away. Your Honor, I said clearly, 52 years ago, I made a promise to my grandfather. I promised to protect the land he'd bought with his own hands, the land that represented our family's freedom, our legacy, our future. I looked at Marcus and Jerome, both in orange jumpsuits, both with their heads down. For 52 years, I kept that promise. I lived on that land. I maintained it. I paid taxes on it. I loved it. And when I was old and alone, my family decided that love didn't matter, that promise didn't matter, that all that mattered was money. My voice grew stronger. They laughed at me when I walked away from that family meeting 6 months ago. They called me a crazy old woman. They thought they'd won. They thought I was too old, too weak, too defeated to fight back. I pulled out the folder I'd brought, the same folder I'd carried to that first confrontation. But I came back. I came back with papers that proved this land was always mine, papers that showed my grandfather's wisdom in protecting it, papers that exposed every lie, every crime, every betrayal. I looked at each of them, Marcus, Jerome, Denise, and I saw what the title of my story promised. They were crying blood. Not literal blood, but tears so full of regret and loss and devastation that they might as well have been bleeding. You tried to take everything from me, I said. My home, my dignity, my life. But in the end, you lost everything. Your freedom, your family, your future. And I'm still standing, still living on my land, still keeping my promise to Grandpa. I turned to the judge. Your Honor, these people don't deserve mercy. They don't deserve forgiveness. They deserve exactly what they're getting, justice. The judge nodded. Thank you, Mrs. Williams. Your strength and determination are remarkable. As they led my family away in chains, not one of them could look at me. They'd laughed when I walked away. Now they cried blood when I returned with the papers. 6 months after the trials ended, I was sitting on my front porch watching the sunset over my land. My land. All 40 acres of it, legally and completely mine. Patricia's car pulled up. She'd been coming to visit me every Sunday, slowly rebuilding our relationship. Her children came too, my great-nieces and great-nephews, and I was teaching them about our family history. The real history. The history of Isaiah Williams, who bought land during Jim Crow and protected it for future generations. Hi, Auntie, Patricia said, climbing the porch steps with a basket. I brought you some of that peach cobbler you like. Thank you, baby. We sat together, eating cobbler and watching the sun go down. Auntie, Patricia said quietly, I went to see Jerome yesterday, in prison. I looked at her surprised. How is he? Broken. He cried the whole time. Said he'd thrown his life away for money he didn't even need. Said he wishes he could go back and change everything. Do you believe him? I don't know, maybe, but it doesn't matter now, does it? He made his choices. Now he has to live with them. Yes, he does. We sat in silence for a moment. Auntie, can I ask you something? Do you ever regret fighting so hard? Wouldn't it have been easier to just sell the land and move on? I thought about that question, really thought about it. No, I said finally. Fighting was hard. Being threatened and attacked and nearly killed was terrifying. But this land represents something bigger than me. It represents my grandfather's courage in a world that tried to keep Black people from owning anything. It represents my family's history, our struggles, our triumphs. And it represents a promise I made. I looked out at the land, the fields where my grandfather had worked, the house he'd built with his own hands, the legacy he'd left behind. Some things are worth fighting for, Patricia, even when the fight is hard, even when it costs you everything. Because if we don't fight for what matters, then what's the point of living? Patricia nodded, understanding. As I'm telling you this story now, I'm 70 years old. I still live on my grandfather's land. I still keep my promise. But I've made some changes. I've set up a scholarship fund for young people from my community who want to go to college. The fund is worth $500,000, money I made by carefully developing part of the land while preserving the rest. I've also created a trust, a real one this time, properly documented and protected, that ensures this land will stay in the Williams family forever. When I die, it will go to Patricia's children, with the same conditions Grandpa specified. They must live on it and maintain it for at least 20 years to inherit. And I've started giving talks at churches and community centers, telling my story, warning other elderly property owners about predatory lawyers and greedy family members, teaching people to protect their legacy. Because my story isn't just about me. It's about everyone who's been underestimated, discarded, or laughed at. It's about the power of determination, the importance of promises, the value of standing up for what's right, even when everyone tells you to give up. My family laughed when I walked away. They thought I was defeated, finished, too old and too weak to fight. But I returned with papers that destroyed their plans and exposed their crimes. I returned with the truth that set me free and sent them to prison. I returned with proof that you're never too old to fight for what matters. And when they saw those papers, when they realized what they'd lost, they cried tears so full of regret and anguish that they might as well have been crying blood. I won, completely and totally. And I'm still here, living on my land, keeping my promise and proving every single day that underestimating a determined old woman is the biggest mistake anyone can make. Wow, what a powerful journey. If Loretta's story touched your heart, inspired you, or made you believe in the power of standing up for what's right, we need you to do 3 things right now. 1, smash that like button. 2, subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you never miss our powerful stories. 3, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from: USA, UK, Canada, South Africa, Jamaica. We want to know our global family. What you thought of Loretta's story. Did she do the right thing? Have you or someone you know faced something similar? Share your story. We read every comment, and your stories inspire our next videos. Share this video with someone who needs to hear Loretta's story. Share it with elderly family members who might be facing property disputes. Share it with anyone who's ever been underestimated. Thank you for being part of our community. From the USA, UK, South Africa, Jamaica, Canada, and everywhere else, we see you, we appreciate you, and we love you. Red Heart. Stay strong, stay blessed, and remember, you're never too old to fight for what's right. Flexed Medium Dark.